Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and yes, I'm aware that the lighting is kind of crap. This is what I get for trying to film in the middle of the day, but I really wanted to get this review out, and that is for The Deep by Rivers Solomon. This is actually a traditionally published book, because I read those sometimes, that I won from a Bookish First raffle. If you're interested in entering a Bookish First raffle, I will have the link down below. But this book has an interesting history, not just in the history of its actual pages, but in its creation. The original concept was made by the electro duo Drexcia, which was then redone by the group Clipping, and then ran into a novel by Rivers Solomon. So this has a 3-level history, and it is really intriguing to see how it changed. I actually went and looked up the Clipping song just to see where it came from, and it's not exactly my personal cup of tea music-wise, but I love the idea of it. Now, this book is a bit dark. This revolves around a race of mermaid-type people called the Wajinru, who are the descendants of pregnant African slaves thrown over the slave ships. So a pregnant African woman would be thrown over the slave ship, deemed unworthy to be worth the care of, and would perish in the water, but her child would essentially be transformed in the womb and swim out as one of these beings, who were then taken care of by whales before they created their own race and could take care of each other. So it's definitely very dark and very focused on that kind of pain and torment of being slaves. And they talk about at one point how the Wajinru would actually find slave ships and follow them in case any pregnant women were thrown overboard, creating their own kind. So it is definitely one of those books that is going to force you to confront some things, but I loved the premise and I loved the focus. Now, River Solomon specifically wanted to focus on the idea of remembering. In the Clipping song, the phrase "y'all remember" is repeated a lot. So this revolves around one of the Wajinru named Yetu, and she is her people's historian. And what that means is she basically harbors all of the memories of their past so they don't have to. Because their past is very heavy and painful and raw, she essentially suffers so that everyone else can live in ignorant bliss. But she doesn't really want to, despite the fact that she's been a historian for, I believe, 20 years at the beginning of our story. She's suffered the entire time. So when it comes time for the ceremony in which she gives those memories back to the people for 3 days so they can remember who they are, she decides she's not going to take them back at the end of those 3 days and flees. I would say runs away, but swims away and ends up in this tidal pool on this island and meets some two legs. And it's her struggling to decide, is it worth being away from her people to have freedom from the memories, or is it worth curing her loneliness from her people to take on the pain of the memories? And there's a lot of emphasis on, are you willing to hold on to yourself and your past and your people's past, even if there is a lot of hardship and pain attached to it? Now, with that whole setup, I get the gist from this book. That it is not meant for me. In case you can't see, I'm white. And so I couldn't shake the feeling that this was really meant for the Black community in general, or this has a message specifically for the Black community. So I was spending the entire time thinking while I was reading, I wonder what someone who's actually from this community would think. And I wonder what someone who is from the community would have to say on it. Am I correct? Is there a perceived message being sent here? Or am I just, going English teachers levels of overanalyzing? But I did love it, even though I'm pretty sure this wasn't meant for me specifically. I did love it. There are a lot of fluid gender appearances, or I guess fluid gender ideas. Every member of the Wajinru essentially has both sets of equipment, but they still do identify as either a gender or non-binary, which makes a lot of sense considering the fact that River Solomon is non-binary. So there was a lot of stuff to dig into with that. There is an FF romance in here. If that's your bent, it is mine. There's non-linear storytelling because on top of Yetu's story, it also goes back to the other historians that were there before her and what they went through and the memories they had and what they added to the memories of the people. So you get a deeper look in just what Yetu doesn't really want to keep a hold of anymore. And the ending was about what I expected, about what I thought would be the perfect ending, which doesn't mean to say that it's a bad thing. In some cases, it just meant that it was wrapped up in a logical and satisfying way, and I really appreciated that. But in general, I really want to know what other people from that community have to say about this book, and I've been turning it over in my head, and I genuinely believe that if I'm right, and this is a message for a group of people that I am not a part of, then I almost want to give this to someone who is a part of that community. And I don't usually do that with arcs that I'm given. I would never do that with an indie book that I was given that was signed specifically for me. But since this was a book I won in a raffle, and I don't know that Bookish First was really double checking the demographics of the reviewers they send these to, if you are a Black booktuber, Black book blogger, whatever, or some way connected to that community, and you would like a copy of this book to review, let me know. Either comment down below, message me on Twitter. I am not opposed to sending this to someone else who might get more out of it than me, who might have a greater stake in the message that it's sending than me. Now, that's not to say that if you're not Black, you won't get anything out of this. It was still a lot of good meat philosophy-wise, and still a lot to think about, and still an adorable FF romance, and also an adorable MM romance earlier. So basically, you will find something to get from this, and it's a quick read. I read this in a day, really loved it. 5 stars. I think you will too. But again, if you are from that community and you want to get a look at this, it comes out November 5th, I believe. Yes, November 5th. And if you don't want to wait till then, message me if you would like this copy. I am not opposed to getting it to someone else who could get more out of it. So thank you so much for watching. I might have a couple more traditional reviews coming, but in general, you know me, it's mostly about the indie books, and I've got a ton more of those coming, so I hope you're prepared. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.